Hey everybody, today let's talk about the VPI Scout Jr. First off, I want to say this is probably the best sounding turntable I have ever heard. Now I have heard some rather expensive turntables over the years, but only momentarily, you know what I mean? Go over to a guy's house and he's got, you know, a really nice clear audio, fancy, you know, $10,000, $12,000 turntable, and you hear it for maybe a song or two and you're like, well, I gotta go. But this, bar none, is perhaps the finest sounding turntable that I have heard for an extended period of time. But anyway, what I'm going to do is take you guys around and sort of show you about the turntable, and then we'll talk about some of its pros and cons. So of course, as you can see, it's a pretty simple affair. Of course, you have an all-metal platter driven belt drive by the motor. Now, this particular Scout Jr. has been upgraded with the JMW tone arm, as well as the prime platter. Normally, the original Scout Jr., when it came out, it roughly costed around about $1,500, $1,600, probably about 10 years ago when it came out. And of course, it was designed as an update, or I should say an upgrade over the Traveler, in the sense that you could buy this as the basic package, and then as you went, you could upgrade the table. You could put a better arm on it. Obviously, you'd get better sound. Of course, you could put a better platter on it, and of course you would get better sound. But like I said, pretty straightforward, a basic belt drive turntable, really nothing interesting about it. It does have the screw down record clamp, which honestly I used a few times, and then it kind of became annoying and tiresome to have to do this every time you play a record, so I didn't use it after that. But pretty straightforward. It came with this, of course. That's something the previous owner had, but that's the standard VPI mat that it comes with, which I used. The arm itself has a range of adjustments. Of course, you know, tracking force, obviously, but you can also adjust azimuth by rotating the counterweight relative to the stylus tip in the groove to achieve a good balance. You can also do it by this two pieces. There's a set screw on the back. You can loosen and rotate that so you can achieve sort of a similar thing. Of course, it has, you know, up and down as well, so you can get perfect tone arm height leveled. Quite easy to do, just a couple set screws on the side, and there's a rotating ring that allows you to get it up and down. It is a unit pivot arm, as you can see. You can actually very easily fully remove the arm should you choose to do, although it's a turntable, so there's really no point in doing that. Now, VPI does have an interesting way with anti-skate. They feel that the connector here, that is basically the tone arm wire, as it comes out and connects to what they call the Lima connector, puts a certain back pressure on the arm as it's traversing the record surface and achieves a good anti-skate. Some people don't feel that that's good enough, and of course this one has the anti-skate device installed, and it's basically a fishing weight style, but instead of connecting to like a hanging weight, it's connected to this piece. Now, VPI themselves believe that the arm and their tables sound better when you don't use this, you know, and I would agree. I think when I had that connected, the anti-skate device, you know, it sounded fine, but whenever I would play it without it, it sounded better. Better imaging, better left to right balance, better image specificity, better outline, player outlines, and those things, just out and out better. But yeah, one thing to note with this is, of course, the build quality is fantastic. Really hard to talk about this table without mentioning some of the pros. And of course, the biggest pro to me is really build quality. This thing is truly superlative with build quality. It feels like a laboratory piece of equipment. Everything, the fit and finish, the quality of everything is truly top notch. Very, very much so. You know, this being the upgraded Scout Jr. with the prime platter and the upgraded arm, everything feels truly precise, hugely precise, and just very well made. Everything from the tone arm lifter to the tone arm itself, the quality of the materials, the set screws when you go to loosen stuff to adjust things, feels very precise, very well made. Even the little junction box back here on the back side of the tone arm where you connect your RCA cables, that feels hugely precise. Just everything overall, and I really can't stress that enough, the build quality of this. this. Now, of course, the next pro is obviously sound quality. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is one of the best sounding turntables, or is the best sounding turntable that I've ever heard. Again, for an extended period of time that I've had personally. Really, truly beautiful sound, just great image placement. Everything is locked in space. There's no drift. You also get a great sense of depth with this. And by the way, we're just using a standard 2M blue cartridge from Ortofone. Nothing extravagant here, nothing fancy, just a basic 2M blue moving magnet cartridge. And you get great outlines. And by the way, this is the best I've ever heard the 2M blue sound. And I've heard the 2M blue on a few different tables over the years, but this is honestly the best I've ever heard it. But yeah, great image, locked in place, great specificity, great sound staging. And I don't just mean left to right, or you can kind of get the players in front of you. No, you kind of close your eyes while you're listening to, let's say, I was listening to Dark Side of the Moon and some classic rock albums. You know, you can feel this sense of depth to the players. Like, okay, here's David Gilmour. There's, you know, there's them, there, and you can really get a good sense of depth with this. It truly is a great sound quality. I would say, you know, it's sort of neutral in its sound. Some tables do have a sound, but I've always kind of felt the cartridge itself is sort of what determines the sound of a turntable. By and large, there are some exceptions to that, but in this case, I do think it's a very neutral sounding table, and it really just truly allows whichever cartridge you have on it to shine, regardless of what you have on it. Now, I did primarily listen to it with the 2M blue, but again, you know, absolutely beautiful sounding, and I really don't know what more to say about the sound quality than that. It really is top rate. This really truly creates a true hi-fi audiophile listening experience from vinyl. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And yeah, let's get to the con. So there's really only one con. Actually, there's two, I should say. And one of them is a slight con, but one of them definitely is a con. So anyway, the first con is this thing had a hum to it. And if you look around the internet for VPI tables, regardless of cost, I'm serious, regardless of cost, hum seems to be an issue with VPI tables. And if you look on the VPI Owners Forum on the VPI website, you can come across a lot of solutions to take care of hum. I've tried them all. I tried grounding the motor. I added a ground wire to that. I tried grounding the junction box to itself, which that was a suggestion. I redid the grounding cable from the base of the tone arm underneath, and it goes up to the junction box. Tried redoing that. Tried using different styles of connectors and cabling, and you know, I minimized the hum. I did minimize it significantly, but I never fully cured it. I never did fully get rid of it. And definitely a shame. And I even called VPI directly, and actually Matt Weisfeld, the owner of the company, answered the phone, and I was telling him about my humming issues and kind of explain what I did. And you know, he was like, well, let me take a look, send me some photos of the table and kind of the grounding situation that you've done with all the extra grounding wires and what's going on. And well, I haven't heard back from him, but regardless, it has a hum I haven't been able to get rid of. Now, the second con is kind of, it's not really a con, but it is kind of a con in the sense that I dislike unipivot arms. Now, I do think this design that they have for their unipivot arms is hugely adjustable, but it's also very finicky. I just dislike this stuff. And I think it's less of a con. I say that because I think it's more of a personal preference thing. I'm used to captive gimbaled yoke type tone arms, where you know it's a straight tube between bearing points, right? Either vertically or horizontally, or sometimes both. I'm just used to that design, and you know it's quite a bit less finicky than this. Now, of course, VPI makes gimbaled tone arms for that reason, I think, because some people don't like unipivot. But that said, I have what I have, and I don't have, you know, another $2,000-3,000 to drop on a gimbaled arm at this moment, so I'm kind of stuck with what I've got. Now, I will say some of the adjustments, they are very precise, and they are very precise to operate, and you know, they work well. However, they are also sometimes a little finicky, particularly adjusting the azimuth of the cartridge by turning the counterweight. I had a time doing that because you're sort of adjusting it, you know, laterally, left and right, to achieve a good straightness to the cartridge relative to the record surface, but at the same time, you're not trying to increase or decrease tracking force. And it's kind of a little fiddly, but it does work. And on the newer style JM9 tone arms, they went from using like a set screw to hold it in place to using like a thumb screw. And I think that would be a little bit better situation because you can kind of just loosen it without having some tool that you're having to torque on to loosen the set screw. But yeah, those are really the only cons. Honestly, the hum I can't get rid of, and of course the little bit fiddly nature of the unipivot tone arm design. But yeah, overall an absolutely fantastic turntable, really truly. The only negative to this turntable, outside of the two that I mentioned, is they no longer make a turntable of this level at this price. Now, of course, they make the Cliffwood, and that runs for about, I want to say about $1,600 or so. You can get the step-up model as well that has the headphone amp. Excuse me, but I've heard of Cliffwood, and I thought it was, you know, very, very lovely sounding, comparable in quality of sound to what I've experienced with the Planar 3 over the years. A great alternative, in fact. However, they no longer make something of this level at this price point, and it's kind of a shame. Their closest alternative is the Scout 21, I believe it's called. Basically a brand new model they came out with, as I understand, very recently, and as a replacement for the older, I believe it was the Prime Scout. I think I'm right in saying. It does have, the newer Scout 21 does have an upgraded motor. Doesn't quite have the prime platter on it. You don't get the big, thick 40-pound platter here, or that 30, 40 pounds, whatever it runs. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a shame that they don't offer something at that price point of maybe this level or this capability, you know, at that price point, and that's kind of a shame. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I've got a couple other videos I'm doing today talking about some other components as well, so we're going to get to that and kind of share my experience with that. And of course, we're finally going to do the iFi Audio Diablo 2 headphone amp / DAC / everything video. But anyway, let's do it.